In our next session, we are going to hear from 3 companies who are working together on a joint approach to transport security, looking at the current state of affairs and the future of fully integrated solutions within transport management systems. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Yanis Ritchen, GTM Customer Lead Europe from Logistics Operating Systems at Bosch, Eric Pratsky, Security Manager from Lorenc Logistic Polska, and Alex Artemonov, Principal Business Development Lead for Supply Chain, Transportation and Logistics at Amazon Web Services. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Eric, I'll let you start us off. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody gathered at this year's TAPA conference. At first, I would like to thank for inviting me here as a presenter this year. And this is my first time appearance of this type of conference, so you have to forgive me slight stress. My name is Eric Pratsky. I work for Lorenc Logistics since 4 years as a security manager. Lorenc Logistic is a Polish-Czech company. Polish-Czech company. It's been operating on the market since 1992, with Lorenc Logistic Polska starting in 2009. Main area of our activity is international road transport within the European Union, and we specialize in the transportation of goods at high risk of theft, like tobacco, pharma goods, pharmaceutical industry, and other. We place great emphasis on safety, and all of our tractors and trailers are equipped with the highest standard equipment. Plus, our drivers are regularly trained from the security measurements. And they have to carry out individual transport along designated routes, for which I'm personally responsible. Unfortunately, having a fleet with a high standard of security and perfectly trained drivers doesn't make us 100% sure that cargo of our clients is 100% safe. For this, to ensure maximum safety, we need also infrastructure, namely safe parking lots. What is not comforting today is there is not only a shortage of secure truck parkings, but also ordinary truck parkings. And unfortunately also there is no shortage of thieves who are only waiting for a bad move in the way of leaving our cargo on an unsecured parking place. As I mentioned at the beginning, I have been working for 4 years in Lorenc Logistic, so I don't have so much experience, but over those couple of years, I saw the changes in this matter. Fortunately, the changes are for the good. One of my many tasks is to determine routes along with the secure truck parkings for our drivers. And I must admit that at the beginning in the past, it was not easy. Not only there was a lack of secure truck parkings, but the information about secure parking were not available as it is today. Of course, you could find information about secure truck parkings, but they were not always 100% reliable. One of my many tasks, quite a big problem, was the condition also of social and sanitary rooms for drivers, which not only discouraged professional drivers, but also deterred potential candidates for this role. And the barge of sanitary rooms divided by gender deterred a majority of women interested in this profession. Each time I had to carry out the verification of a parking lot personally, and as you can easily imagine, it wasn't easy and very time-consuming and not very efficient, to be honest. Very often we had situations when our driver had to add a lot of kilometers just to make a break on a secure parking spot. Needless to say, this a problem for our planning department. As far as possible, we also use the help of our clients who enable us to park on their warehouses, which were fenced, monitored, and guarded around the clock. And they also informed us about secure truck parking along the way, basing on their experience. In 2023, searching for parking lot is much easier. And it's much easier thanks to Bosch Secure Truck Parking Portal. Their team did a really good job creating this portal. Thanks to such initiative, I have a reliable source of information about secure parking in whole Europe. I still personally check those parking spots, but thanks to them, I cannot waste so much time, because when I'm going to such a parking, I'm sure that quality of it is really good. The biggest advantage of this portal, however, is the possibility of booking parking place. This greatly facilitates the planning of deliveries without worrying about lack of parking space for a driver. And one of many parking spaces available on Bosch portal is Freightsafe. And I must admit that their solution is not conventional, but it doesn't mean that it's something bad. For some, this solution still may seem strange, but for us and our drivers, something normal and natural, because we use their, one of their facilities almost every day. And leaving cargo under external supervision in a closed garage not only ensures a safe stop, but also relieves drivers, relieves stress of the driver associated to making a break with a high-value cargo. And this solution is not free from defects, of course, because it depends on the functionality of whole systems. But if there is some issue, and we had such in the past, Freightsafe has a backup plan. So they have a security guard who goes there and makes sure that the driver and the cargo are safe and sound. In fact, there are no parking places without any flaws, because probably everybody here was a witness of some damages on the parking places. Holes in fences, not functioning monitoring, or even problems with sanitary rooms. But we as users must remember to, for example, notify Bosch if we have booked a given parking place through their portal, so they can contact the operator and remove the defect as fast as possible. Of course, Bosch is not the only one on the market. We also use Travis portal, which also offers a wide range of secure truck parking. And I was delighted when those two companies announced collaboration in the name of shortage of truck parking spaces. And I'm only waiting for more such initiatives, because they can only help carriers such as Lorenc Logistic Polska to have more parking places for the drivers. And we cannot also forget about TAPA certification for parking spots, because if parking spots have a TAPA certificate, it guarantees the quality of service provided. If it comes to the future, today it doesn't look so bad, but as we know, there is always room for development and improvement. I'm waiting for more secure truck parkings, and I'm waiting for more bays from Freightsafe. Gentlemen, I'm waiting for more bays. There are too many holes in Europe without secure parking spot. I think that every parking operator should consider collaboration with such portals as Bosch, because not only they will reach a larger audience of clients, but they will reach an audience who is interested in secure truck parkings. The next step, I think that guys from Bosch can lead them in the right way if they want to increase the level of security. And also, parking operator at the end should consider obtaining a TAPA certification, which could be culmination of the effort put into creating secure truck parking. It would be a great cherry on the top of this effort put it into their work. As for the booking portals themselves, next step into the future may be the integration of their portal with internal companies' systems, which could only speed up the booking system, and dispatcher or planning team would not have to worry what, where, and how to book. Everything would be in one place. And perhaps such integration will also allow you to show parking proposal on route. If necessary, recalculate it so it runs through a secure parking spot. It may even make it possible to find a parking spot basing on traffic loads or driver's time, which would be really, really great. And I think this is a future worth waiting for. And of course, it is impossible to make everything at once, and I'm knowing life, I'm sure that a lot of us will have problems because of system limitations. But we have to take these small steps, and we have to remember that these small steps, even a very small one, should be certain and go in the right direction. Thank you very much. That was all from my side. Thank you again for the opportunity to show my point of view on secure truck parkings. And please enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you, Eric. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Despite what the initial introduction said, I actually work for AWS, not Amazon. I did start my career in Amazon, but switched to the bright or dark side of the business, depending on how you want to see it. But I actually work for the cloud provider called Amazon Web Services. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell is a cloud provider doing in a supply chain logistics resilience conference? So that's going to be my challenge in the next 10 minutes to explain how we fit into this whole picture. But just to set the scene in terms of what exactly is AWS. AWS is a leader in cloud provider, cloud services, whether it's compute, whether it's storage, whether it's advanced analytics such as machine learning. That's what we do. In terms of typical cloud benefits, again, I'm not going to dwell on them for too long, but just to mention the top ones, there's no need to provision for a lot of resources on-prem. The cloud allows you to collect the data rather quickly from multiple sources and start running different analytical tunes on top of that data to derive analytical insights and help in the decision making. All right, I need to be talking a bit louder apparently. I'll try to do that. So these are the key cloud benefits, but you're probably wondering, how can we put it into the context of the logistics industry? What exactly does cloud bring into logistics? So there's probably two large components worth mentioning. The first is data. So data obviously helps you to achieve full visibility in terms of what's going on in the supply chain, whether it's transport, whether it's units that you're transporting, such as containers, pallets, packages. And it's not only internal data, which is created within supply chain, but also external data sources. They start playing bigger and bigger role. For example, weather traffic. Amazon is currently using weather forecasts to tighten and provide you with more accurate custom delivery promise. So if we're seeing that something is happening in terms of rain or snow, and we cannot necessarily deliver tomorrow, maybe the promise shifts to the day after. In terms of safety and resiliency, for example, when it comes to line haul, that's the example I had to work on. Again, if we're seeing adverse weather condition in some parts of Europe, that potentially affects the long lanes for transport, and we do not expect carriers or line haul service providers to meet the standard SLAs in terms of transit times, but we bake in additional safety margins to make sure that the driver doesn't need to speed up in adverse weather conditions. So that creates resiliency and obviously safety as well. And the last benefit that I'll mention is advanced analytics, such as machine learning or artificial intelligence. As AWS, we work with the large businesses, and one of the customers I've got right now is using machine learning to understand the key drivers beyond theft. So what exactly drives theft in the internal operations, whether it's internal warehouses or potentially externally as well? Is it geography in terms of type of lanes, type of corridors that they're running? Is it the type of third-party providers that they're using to execute this service, or is it something else? Or potentially parking spots? Another interesting point that, another interesting project that I'm working on is tracking, capturing truck movements again in the yard to help the customer derive safe practices and make sure that we avoid congestion in the yard. In terms of how we, AWS and Bosch, fit together, we signed up to a partnership to develop a logistics operating system, so-called LOS, and I'll come to that in a moment, what LOS stands for. But in terms of initial premises, what brought these two companies together? So both of us are quite good in technology. AWS is good in terms of cloud technology, and Bosch brings a lot of know-how when it comes to automotive and mobility industries. So that's the first premise. Another premise is that both are rather large businesses. We do have extensive networks of customers, partners, vendors, suppliers, you name it. So in terms of business development purposes, we do have large networks that we can tap into. And finally, both companies are very big on sustainability. We do have ambitious sustainability targets. So this is the last premise, which brought us all together to sign up to a partnership and develop a logistics operating system. So in a nutshell, what that is, it's a platform in a cloud. That's what AWS does, which has got a number of benefits. I'm not going to go through all these bullet points. I'll just mention the key ones. The first one is a marketplace, so which brings together on one side potential customers such as carriers, transporters, line haul service providers, whatever terminology you're using, as potential customers. And on the other side, it brings together software houses or independent software vendors, which create solutions for the logistics industry. So in the marketplace, depending on what the carrier or LSP needs, they can find a solution that is fit for their purposes. There are some additional benefits, such as a single sign-on, for example, single access to data, single billing, which simplifies life for a dispatcher. But to me personally, the most interesting benefit of LOS is a horizontal integration layer across different solutions. And that can manifest itself in a couple of different things. It can be either bringing features from one software solution into another, again, simplifying the life of a dispatcher, or it can be stringing together two currently independent and separate solutions in order to arrive to better holistic decisions. And here's where we're going into one of such use cases of horizontal integration, where we're bringing together a Bosch truck parking solution that we already mentioned, and a transport management system on the right-hand side, a TMS. So LOS, as a cloud-native platform, needs to provide quite a lot of technical background in order to make this happen, to make the two apps talk to one another. So we're talking data normalization, standardization, EDIs, APIs. I don't want to go into too much into IT, but basically that's what AWS enables, to make this connection and to help dispatchers and LSPs make better decisions in relation to parking. However, when it comes to business benefits, Yanis is the founding father of this particular use case, so might be a good moment to hand it over to you.
So, not to get in trouble with other people, so not quite the father, but have been there for a while before. And so I know our truck parking platform, and I know also at Tapa we talked a lot about parking security certifications, etc. The big problem that we see, however, is it has to be cost effective. We heard in the previous presentation also about efficiency, about what we have to measure everything that we do against costs. And the big thing that deters an effective deployment of parking solutions, for example, is that you have to use system over system over system. There's 1,000 different systems. Each of one of them is very good for the particular use case, but for the people that have to use it in the operational side, it becomes extremely difficult and sometimes frustrating to use them next to each other. There's this picture that some of you might have seen before of this dispatcher sitting with 4, 5, 6 monitors, looking at all these kind of different things, interacting and putting it together in their head, which I think is amazing that they do it. But honestly speaking, there's not so many dispatchers, there's not so many drivers that we can really cover it. So the thing is, yeah, this is something that I hope to see a lot more in the future. Bringing something like truck parking, but I can also very much imagine other initiatives coming for driver vetting or other things that we hear in the future, to bring this into the transport management systems, which still lie at the heart of most of the solutions that we see when it comes to carriers, when it also comes to shippers. This now is only the first example that is going live very soon. So LES Winsped, which is a TMS from Germany, and I'm not going to explain you all of this because you can come to us over there if you want to know more. But what I do want to say is this kind of picture, which I think is very interesting. We have the planning part, which is central, because if we don't plan our routes, which, by the way, with Tapa, of course, we have to, no? But there's also the execution part. And this is where we actually have the opportunity to help the operations. Because if the driver goes through Germany, which I know rather well, and then at around 4 o'clock, you look over your right shoulder and you see the parking place, and you see how many people are standing there, the driver starts to think, do I use my full driving time? Or do I now take the safe bet and park in an adequate solution, in an adequate parking place? And not every driver will, of course, make that decision, but enough of them will. And I think it's quite understandable because they don't have the security that when their driving time ends, they actually will have a parking place that is secure enough and also for them actually pleasant enough to stay at. And this comes in when we talk about telematics and using the driver and inputting them as well, putting them in the loop. Doesn't mean that the driver now has to book because we know there's security concerns for that oftentimes, but we can inform them. We can enable this kind of parking booking with a dispatcher in the loop also in the future, and then ensure that from planning to execution and then later to reporting, did people actually park where they should park? Because if I'm a shipper, then honestly speaking, I would want to know, did the TSRs that I defined, the parking places that were allowed, were they adhered to or not? Because otherwise we are going to really a race to the bottom, because if everybody can promise anything and nobody is checking anything, which of course here is probably not a problem, but in the other world where we talk about volumes that are not highly secured, more often than enough, I personally have also seen it, that it happens. Reporting this then finally is the key after the first 2 steps. And we are excited now that we are going now into a direction where we see with our initiative, but also with others, that this is coming to more and more systems and that things are more and more tightly integrated. Connecting the dots is important, and I just want to leave you with one picture. The question that I really like is about this one. This is one of the parking places that we had the pleasure to build up. And the question is this park actually truck parking securely? And I don't know if it's visible so well, so I had the pleasure to build the parking space. I know, but to give you a hint, this is the unsafe parking for €6 where you get a bratwurst. This is the highly secured one for, I don't know, at that time I think 25, €26, with all the fancy things that were built without a bratwurst. And I don't know if this trailer was actually empty, if there was anything behind. Maybe he was just taking a rest and he was doing it in a very cost-effective way. But if we don't connect the dots, if we don't ensure that we do this as a conscientious decision, then we end up with this situation and the criminals are putting the dots back together, and we have the point that actually we lose out and we have thefts, and then this nice rule of 5 comes into play, and it's much better to spend €20 in the beginning, ensure that it's adhered to, get the data, and then later avoid thefts. And I think this is all that we wanted to present. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference.
Well, thank you all very much for those presentations. We've got a few minutes for a couple of questions before we go off for a coffee break. Again, just a reminder, if you do want to ask anything, just pop your hand up and one of the team will be with you to bring a microphone over. Eric, maybe I could start myself asking a question to you. Can you tell us any more about the challenges for transport companies in finding secure truck parking places?
Finding a secure truck parking is the biggest challenge if you want a truck to arrive at the destination point securely and safely. The biggest challenge back in the days was lack of information about the parking spaces. Today, thanks to this, thanks to Bosch portal or other portals, we have availability to check on the routes. And the biggest challenges are the situations where we have a new line, for example, from our clients in the area that is unknown by us. And we have to search for something new. And again, such portals as Bosch or Travis come on the way and help us with that.
And Yannis just touched on it a little bit at the end, but Eric, just to ask you one more question before we move on. Are customers willing to bear the cost of secure parking?
Yeah, this is always the point that nobody wants to touch. And not all clients are willing, but the clients that are aware that they need security because their cargo is really high valued and there is no chance to trace such a cargo if there will be any theft. they are willing to share the cost or cover the cost, but sadly not everybody. And I know how does it sound from the point of a carrier that wants to be, wants to have a cover all of the costs, but everybody has to understand if you want to keep everything as safe as possible, you need to consider costs not only for fuel, for other costs that we're always counting. We have to take also into consideration cost of security parking along the way.
Alex, let me come to you now. This initiative, what value do you think it can have at an industry level?
Well, there's so many benefits. Off the top of my head, parking decisions, if we can fit them into overall routing, for example, that's certainly going to help in terms of more precise ETAs, for example, when we know exactly where the driver is going to spend the night for his sleep, or the other breaks that he or she needs to take by the law. If we know exactly where the driver is going to be, that's going to help us to predict when the driver is going to arrive to the final destination. Additional benefits off the top of my head can be,
Just make sure you're just talking straight into
yeah,
the
sure.
That's great.
That's better. If something goes wrong, for example, the truck is running later than planned, and the system can potentially suggest where to park right now, which is, in my experience, especially critical for crossing the English Channel, about approaching the ports in Calais or Le Havre. You can't approach them too close in order to park. At the same time, it doesn't make sense to park too far away from them. But if the truck is running late or the ferry is going to depart late, what's going to happen to the driver? What's the best place to park to basically replan on the fly and make this decision? So there are multiple elements which fit into this system. On top of it, I can also think of killing few birds with a single stone. For example, not just ticking the boxes for the driver stops by the law, but also adding additional considerations into parking, such as electrical vehicle recharging, or, for example, parking next to the petrol stations with whom the shipper has got interesting discount programs. So by finding the right spots, we can potentially tick quite a few boxes in terms of the challenges that drivers or dispatchers need to wrestle with.
Yanis, based on your experience in the field of technology-based transport security, can you identify a significant technological trend that's shaping the resilience of logistic companies?
Yeah, certainly. So I really do think we have heard the theme from Thorsten, we have heard it from the gentleman from Amazon before, and we saw it a little bit with us again. I think the clear trend is integration. The clear trend is that we are having connected solutions, that we are sharing more data and better, because wherever there's system breaks, the criminals will eventually identify them and they will strike. The one trend that I see there, though, and where I really am excited for the things that Thorsten mentioned before, is if we have TAPA TIS here and this expanding a lot, then this allows us to tackle this problem of cost effectiveness. The right security measure for the right price at the right point is what we need. And if I have a low risk profile, then I park securely and cheaply somewhere. But if I have a lot of value and I know there have been thefts there, I might want to reconsider that option. And I think this is really the trend that we see. And I hope it accelerates further because we need it. We heard it in the very beginning.
And just two quick questions to look ahead. Alex, first you, and then Yanis, I'll finish with you. Alex, what cloud technologies do you see playing the biggest role in logistics in the future?
It's probably the same what we've seen recently, the growth in data. It speed ups every day, how much data vehicles generate these days with new devices and Internet of Things, measurements from the engine, the driving patterns, traffic, you name it. And on top of that data, there's going to be a need for more sophisticated analytics. What kind of additional insights can we potentially derive from all these massive amounts of data that's being generated on a daily basis? And when we plug in new data sources, like the one we looked at today, again, what interesting insights can we derive from it? It's too difficult for human mind to process all this information. And this is where machine learning comes into stage. I believe it will be developing even further. or you all heard about ChatGPT and what that kind of technology can potentially bring to the drivers. Can it be some kind of an assistant to help the driver to get from A to B in the most efficient manner? I'm too old, but some of you probably remember Windows used to have this Clippy assistant. Can we create something similar for the driver to make sure that it connects in terms of what exactly is going on with the route, how the driver is progressing, what's happening with the parking when he or she needs to take the break. If something goes wrong, can it help to replan on the fly and tell the driver, I suggest you do X, Y, and Z.
And finally, Yanis, what would you say is your prognosis for the next 5 years, for example, in terms of the ideal state of the transport security?
I think it will be, in 5 years, I would really foresee that we have things, that people are using all these tools, all these software solutions exactly in the system that they're used to. We have smart messaging solutions that we see on the market, so why do I need to use an app? So I can get my parking place there, for example, or my driver vetting, etc. We see this integration, and I think it will be up to us to realize it now. And what we have now tried to do, or what is our vision is, it has to be easy to plug and play these different things together. That means more than just providing somebody an API and say, eat or die, which is nice if you have plenty of IT capacity. But I don't know about all of you, if you have all these IT departments idling, we don't. And so really having these things pre-packaged so it's easy for everybody to find the right solution for themselves and use this. And then to have this predictive vision fully implemented. Risk intelligent, I think we saw as well here, very excited, this kind of things also crucially playing into that. So this would be my prediction for the future in the next 5 years.
Well, thank you, all three of you, for joining us. It's been a great pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.